Thank you, John. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for being here. It's great that you could all come out this evening. I see a lot of old friends and a lot of new friends, and I feel very honored that you've taken some time out to be here. So thank you all. Thank you, Crystal. I knew you'd be good at this job, and I really appreciate your words, and I'm quite touched by that. Thank you. We had a long friendship and a few fights and some hard work together. We've done some great things. So thank you, and thank you, Peter, for seconding the nomination this evening. Thank you for your support and your faith in me. Before I go in, I just want to introduce Kay Clark is my campaign manager, who just agreed to do this over the last few days. She's been in the back of the room there. And,
everybody will be hearing from me.
Now, before saying a few words about why I want to be your next MLA, I do want to acknowledge Stephen McNeil, the leader of the Nova Scotia Liberal Party, and thank him for being here. He's a very busy man, and I really appreciate him coming and supporting our efforts here in King South. And I just saw another special guest this evening that must have just slipped into the back of the room, Paula Kindley Howitt, who ran in this riding. Thank you very much, Paula, to be here and help pass the torch to a provincial rookie here. So, I've now met Stephen several times, and I've seen him in action on a number of occasions. And I've never been disappointed in what I've heard from him. And I've never been disappointed in anything he said on the political front. In fact, on each occasion with Stephen, my own reasons and commitment for running for the Liberal Party have been sharpened. And I mean that in all honesty. I've been very impressed with this man. In my experience, when Stephen speaks, his words speak to the values that are rooted in the fabric of Nova Scotian families and in Nova Scotian communities. And these values are what I believe Nova Scotians are looking for in their next premier of this province. I see another famous Liberal, John Murphy, has just arrived. Thank you, John. I'd like to thank Stephen Pearl, the Liberal candidate for Kings North, and Claude O'Hare from Hants West, along with Stephen and Leo Levine, who everyone knows from Kings West. I believe we're going to make a strong team of Liberals for the Annapolis Valley. And we as a team of Liberals are committed to understanding and serving the needs of all the families of Nova Scotia, and in particular the Valley. I, of course, also want to acknowledge and introduce you to my family that are here tonight. Catherine Trumper, the shy Catherine Trumper, and Simon Irvin. Simon's recently returned from Dalhousie for the summer, and he's looking for a job. So, if any of you are hiring, thank you both for supporting my political passions, and I say that because really this is the second campaign for our family in a year, so your support has been really essential for me to take this next step into provincial politics. And I say next step, my path started out back in some days with Crystal as a young volunteer with Canadian Crossroads International, where a young maritimer went off to Cameroon in Africa, and realized that there was important work to do in contributing to one's community. And that laid the groundwork for me to take that into politics at the municipal level years later, and now it seems the logical step to take it to the provincial level and work on behalf of riding and for all of Nova Scotians. One thing I want to assure you all that with one election under my belt 6 months ago, it has made me campaign ready. I'm ready to go. It's been said that all politics is local, which is why serving as a councillor here in Wolfville provided such great grounding for me in taking on the issues of this constituency. I've worked through difficult decisions in land use planning, in transportation, waste management, economic development, and most of all, budgets. Even budgets that are truly balanced. I've joined the Liberal Party, I have to start. I know what is required to work through tough choices. I know how important it is to engage the public in finding the right path forward. And I also know how important it is to anticipate the outcomes of policy decisions. That's what leaders do, anticipate the outcomes. I've learned that many of the challenges and issues in Wolfville are shared by the other communities in Kings County. After serving for 4 years as a councillor for the town of Wolfville, I decided last fall to run for mayor, and I'd like to speak a bit about what I learned from knocking on over 800 doors here, and from my work for 4 years with other municipalities, with businesses, and community groups throughout this riding. The first thing I'd like to talk about is education. People are truly concerned about the future of the schools in our province. It's a deeply personal issue for citizens. Here in Kings County, for example, the condition of Wolfville School is an embarrassment. I took an extensive tour of that school when I was elected as a councillor 4 years ago, and I was shocked at the conditions of the school that my son was attending back then. I've worked very closely with several school advisory committee chairpersons over the years in shaping campaigns to lobby for our school during the school review process and to lobby for renovations of that school. And to say the least, upgrading our schools involves a mysterious, soulless process that pits communities against communities. Recently, I've seen the NDP policy on school closures clouded by pre-election flip-flops based on a hope that voters will have short memories. The result of these confused actions are alienated school boards, alienated communities, alienated parents, confused students. Now, this is a very odd approach by a government who has simultaneously commissioned a study on reinventing rural economies. There is not one rural Nova Scotian who doesn't understand the importance of the school in their community. If our schools exist to make our kids smarter, shouldn't education policy also be smarter than what we're seeing? Did the NDP government not realize that taking $70 million out of the education budget would ultimately result in worse outcomes for our students? The NDP government seems to me have lost their way on education. The other thing I want to talk about tonight that I learned from citizens and from my years as a community leader here in Kings South is that people in the Annapolis Valley, whether they make their living as farmers in Avonport or live on rural properties in Colebrook or are citizens in a community like Greenwich, all have an opinion on and a connection to agriculture. Agriculture has sustained the economy of the valley for hundreds of years, and it has continued to reinvent itself many times to sustain a new generation of farmers. We've witnessed this with the growth of hothouses and bird farmers and organic farmers, and with many grape growers that are now servicing our wine industry. That's why I'm mystified that instead of developing policies which support our dynamic farming industry and our farmers, the NDP government has quietly brought forward a proposal to change the statement of provincial interest on agriculture, an important planning tool for this province, and the result of which would be the loss of more prime agricultural land and the creation of more land use conflicts for farms. Agricultural policy in the valley, in Kings South, is economic policy. We need to be investing in innovation. We need to be attracting young farmers, not discouraging them. Our wine and food industry should be part of an immigration strategy. So, on two deeply personal issues for families in King South, the schools and the agricultural economy, the NDP are failing us. The Valley has two wonderful assets that, if we make strategic investments, will return great wealth to our communities. One, our children, and two, our land. I would like the opportunity to work with our leader, Stephen McNeil, and with the citizens of King South to lead the focus back to what is important to families, businesses, and individuals in this riding. This brings me to small business. I operate my own architectural practice, so I know what it means to make a living outside of HRM. And I know what it means to develop relationships with other Valley business owners and service providers to get the job done. I understand that successfully completing a job invariably requires honest teamwork. I also know how frustrating it can be for a small local business to be creating jobs while government is distracted with questionable big deals.